Yo, what's going on, guys? HyperX here, and today I want to talk about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. You guys know I am a massive Zelda fan. This is without question my most anticipated game of next year, and of course, as of the most recent trailer, not only do we now have a name, Tears of the Kingdom, we also have a release date, which is incredibly exciting because we now have something to look forward to. But in that trailer, there were of course some rather interesting things, and I haven't personally had a chance to sit down and actually talk about them, so today I want to do exactly that. I want to talk about 8 awesome things we got to see in this most recent trailer, some theories, some speculation, and maybe, depending of course how observant you've been, some things you may have missed. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think of this trailer, let me know if you guys are excited for this game. Let me know what you're hoping to see in the sequel, and of course do be sure to keep it locked for plenty more. But to begin with, let's start with one of the slightly more obvious things, which of course is presented at the very beginning of the trailer. We have a look at this sort of a rather interesting stone mural depicting lots of different things. We of course have armies of bokoblin, we have Malice working its way all around things, we of course have some noteworthy figures whom right now we don't have exact insights into who they are, but what I want to focus on are of course the tears, these little sort of icons you see surrounding this most noteworthy character. Now of course in Breath of the Wild, that was a fantastic game, one of my all-time favourite Zelda games and favourite games in general. But one of the biggest gripes of Breath of the Wild was the sort of distinct lack of the traditional dungeon format. Sure, we had the Divine Beasts, and sure, we of course had plenty of fantastic shrines. The shrines were honestly incredible, and if you take some of the sort of shrine logic and puzzles and work that into a larger scale dungeon, honestly would have had something absolutely incredible. So hopefully that is what Tears of the Kingdom will of course address. And if you look back at Zelda history, 7 is typically a notable number. 7 sages in Ocarina of Time, 7 maidens stuck in crystals in Link to the Past, so 7 is of course a noteworthy number. So seeing these tears prominently placed around this character, could that maybe hint at sort of 7 traditional dungeons that we'll have to explore, maybe go through, reclaim these tears in order to do whatever we need to do in this story? That would honestly be pretty awesome. The items themselves also look kind of similar to the sort of amber relics from Skyward Sword, but at this stage we don't necessarily know what they are, other than the fact that they are clearly important given their prominence in this mural. Moving on from there, of course, we then get to a section where Link runs outside, and we then get to take a look at a brand new item on his waist. Of course, the Sheikah Slate was a core component of the first game of Breath of the Wild, but that is no longer a thing in this game. Now, we of course have this new item, which hangs prominently on Link's waist. Now, again, we don't know exactly what this is going to be just yet, whether it's sort of a small vials, a means through which you can maybe store those collected tears, although I will say that one is probably more unlikely given that there appear to be 8 slots and we saw 7 tears on the mural, so I think something as prominent as that would probably have a slot in the menu. But this is potentially also some sort of resource, given that of course we see in this picture Link has some but not all of them, so whether they have not been collected or whether they've been used, this could well become a resource that we use for some of the new abilities, whether it be say the sort of teleporting abilities or rewinding time abilities. That much we'll have to wait and see, but the fact that it of course hangs prominently on his waist and is also clearly part of the key art, it is definitely a very important item in the game. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think this could be. I will say it definitely looks quite similar to the Vessel of Light that both Link and Midna used in Twilight Princess to collect Tears of Light, so I definitely think there is some sort of collection component tied to that. In addition to that, somewhat related, I spoke about, of course, using those new abilities. We get another look at Link using that sort of rewind time ability to send a chunk of rock into the sky. Now, in one of the former trailers, we got a look at him using that to send a spiked ball back up, or sort of back up a slope to knock down some enemies. And given the sort of black and white nature of the surrounding in the background, clearly this does sort of indicate some sort of rewind time or sort of time reversal feature. Possibly it could be a way to access the islands. Admittedly, we have seen other means through which you can, jump up high and sort of get to the skybound islands, but the fact that of course we see lots of floating islands that would have dropped some rubble, and we see rubble littered all around the game world, this could also be another means through which you access some of the sort of higher, harder to reach locations in the game. Also, during the segment, moving on to point number 4, we get a look at a potentially new enemy type. Briefly, during this segment and this same scene, we actually get a look at this, creature here. Not entirely sure what this is, but it definitely looks different to anything we have fought so far. It's this almost sort of reptilian-looking drake or bat or sort of small dragon, so to speak. And generally speaking, while it could be a sort of smaller enemy, the fact that it does prominently show in the trailer during this segment means it's clearly not nothing. I mean, the sections where you would typically just encounter random quote-unquote trash mobs, they're generally speaking shown off in sort of pretty, throwaway manners. But this one clearly shows up up during the rewind section, so I feel like it's definitely something more significant. Additionally, we're going to look at potentially a sort of teleport location. During the section where Link jumps onto a glider, we see this sort of spiraling green sort of energy down below. This also does appear to match the sort of spiral energy from the corpse in the first trailer, but when you factor in that in one of the more recent trailers, we see Link sort of, taking this tier structure or like water structure and seemingly teleporting through solid stone. This could well be another means through which you're able to access previous locations, whether it be a teleporter, whether it be just a straight vertical jump sort of link upwards to allow you to sort of, get to the Skyward Islands. Again, not entirely too sure, but this is definitely very clearly visible from the sky. Also, speaking of visible from the sky, something else that is actually quite sneaky in this trailer, and that appears to be this dragon. It is definitely obscured by the islands. You of course can't see the head in this, but it is also worth noting that the coloration on this dragon definitely appears to be different to that of the dragons we encountered in Breath of the Wild. So with that being said, this could potentially suggest we do get to experience and encounter new dragons in Tears of the Kingdom. And also, given that they seem to appear quite a lot sort of prominently in lots of the game's imagery and sort of symbolism, when you factor in the logo is quite literally two dragons sort of eating each other. We of course see them presented on the door itself, and they feature heavily in some of the old Zonai ruins. It's fair to say that dragons may well be a sort of big core component in this game. So the fact that we see one sneaking around in the back is also going to be pretty sweet. I always loved running around in Breath of the Wild, just sort of seeing them fly throughout the sky, and to think that of course we'll be able to explore sort of sky islands this time around may well mean we get to sort of see situations where they're almost flying alongside us. So that is going to be pretty awesome. Moving on from there to the next point, I also want to touch a little bit more on the floating islands, because of course while the initial sort of parallel when it came to these floating islands was Skyward Sword, naturally has lots of floating islands, it's definitely sort of the initial thing people are drawn towards. It is worth noting there also appear to be parallels you can draw with Twilight and Princess, because if you turn your attention to the Twilight realm specifically, this features similar morphology to those sort of islands you see in the Tears of the Kingdom trailer. They have this almost tier-like structure to the bottom, almost as if the rocks have been pulled out of the ground and left stuff beneath them. And when you actually look at some of the sort of islands in the Twilight Realm alongside, say, some of the islands in Tears of the Kingdom, there definitely are some parallels. So I will say, from a lot of stuff we do see in the trailer, there definitely seem to be things you can draw comparisons with Skyward Sword, but also Twilight Princess, and that much is definitely very exciting. That of course then bleeds into the very final point, which is the logo itself. This features an altered Master Sword. The green itself is reminiscent of the Twilight markings, so again, with lots of sort of nods to potentially Twilight Princess links, this is also going to be quite exciting. But anyway, that's it for the time being. Quick little rundown on a few things that are worth noting in this trailer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you missed some of the recent videos, be sure to check out one of these ones and keep it locked for plenty more.